After 50% of our team was taken out by COVID, we managed to reconvene with 12 hours to go before 6:15 aired. We also wanted to warn you that we did discuss gun violence in this instalment, and we just wanted you to be prepared for that chat. See you on the other side.
Hello.
Hi.
However many days later, that's why I'm in a different shirt. And excuse my couch and blanket. We have some kind of, I'm pretty sure it's COVID. We haven't tested, but if it's not, it's a strong bug hitting my household. So tonight, usually just kind of a tidbit about me. If there's any Tiffany fans out there, which there probably are not, they're probably all Melissa fans, but
You're right.
um which I would completely understand. She's got the romantic accent and the humor. So, um, but any Tiffany fans out there, every Thursday, my mom and we always go to Little Caesars and we order our favorite pizza and our favorite cheese bread, and that's what we eat when we watch Station 19 together. So it's kind of our Station 19 routine, I guess. And tonight I'm like, is it gonna be chicken noodle soup and NyQuil? I'm not, and like cough drops.
Oh, bless you.
But I really want my pizza still.
What pizza do you have? What is it? What is your favorite pizza?
So it's funny because, I used to have like a favorite pizza, and like 2 months ago, I ordered pizza, and these ingredients just sounded really good to me. I had never had it before. And I ordered it and I ate it and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever tasted. And now it's all we order. Um, so we do a thin crust,
There is only a thin crust. Pizza done any other way is just, it
right?
should be illegal.
It should. Because the thin crust, I just love it. And then we do extra cheese,
Nice.
ham, bacon, mushrooms, and banana peppers.
All right.
And it is the best thing I've ever tasted. So I'm already thinking about it, but I'm just wondering if I'm going to be doing chicken noodle soup later on. But
Well, now I want pizza.
didn't you
Mhm.
just have pizza for dinner the other night?
Yeah, I'd eat pizza for dinner every night.
You're like, Julia, I want
Julia,
pizza.
make some dough, please now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. Getting back onto our podcast, because I know our faithful listeners are waiting. First of all, I want to just thank, I don't know if you've noticed, Melissa, but on Instagram and Twitter, our growth has grown exponentially
Yes.
in our
Yeah.
followers. And I am super grateful and thankful for that because that's just what to me helps push us to keep going, that people are enjoying it.
Yes. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's just amazing to me that, sorry, my dogs are kicking off in the background because my fiance's just come home with their food. Um, but but no, but it's just so incredible to me that anyone wants to listen to us talk about Station 19.
Yeah.
But it just makes me so happy. So thank you so much. And yeah, keep it coming. Keep it coming, and keep messaging us. Keep sending us your thoughts, and if you've got any ideas of what you want us to talk about over the hiatus, send that in, because we love that as well. We love when you all get involved, so please keep it coming.
Yeah, especially obviously everybody knows we're I think we only have 4 episodes left of this season,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But then we're gonna jump into season 1, episode 1, which I'm excited about
Yep.
because the show has changed so much in 6 years. Um, but also, Melissa has a couple ideas of special episodes to do, like lost storylines. So if there's anything like that you guys want to talk about in regards to that, or a specific topic, or a plot that you would have liked to have seen, or something happened that you didn't want to see, let us know because we might do an episode on that as well. So, we have a 3-month hiatus, so we have time to play around, I
We've
think.
got plenty to dive into in the off season, right?
Yeah. Yes. I'm honestly, as much as I hate to say it, because I don't like the hiatus, I'm excited that we have this to do on the hiatus. So,
It's going to keep us occupied. It's going to keep us going. And I think it's
yeah,
going to keep us
for
it's
sure.
going to keep us really engaged. Look, we are not as entertaining as Danielle and various guests on her sofa, 3 2 go,
No, we're not.
etc. But we're doing our best. We're a poor
We
imitation, but we're
try.
doing our best.
Yeah, we try. I'm not gonna lie, I'm inclined, Melissa, and you can edit this out if you want, but I'm actually inclined to ask Danielle and Stefania if they will be guests on our Station 19 podcast when I meet them at the cons in Europe.
You know what? Do it. Worst they can say is no.
Right, which they both said yes for my personal
There you
podcast.
go.
So I'm thinking it's a good possibility, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Are you sweating? Are you starting to sweat?
Yeah, just a little bit. Feel free to big up the, what was it you called it? The romantic accent and humor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Feel
yeah,
free to
yeah.
feel free to
Be,
utilize that.
be like, it's not just an Emmy. I also have a Brit who has that accent, and
There you go.
but no, I'm gonna ask them when because I have like 3 different meet and greets with them. I'm gonna ask them, and I'm gonna say, hey, we started a Station 19 podcast, and see what they say. But about this episode,
Yes.
I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. When Andy came down the rafters and walked into the barn, and just seeing that emotion that she portrayed, I think Jaina's so good at that.
Yes.
And I love when there are scenes that pull that out of her, that kind of challenge her. And so I really appreciated that, but it got cut short by the dumpster fire, which I appreciated her comedic response, because even though she was hurting, she's like kind of like, well, yeah, of course
Of course.
I would have to deal with a
Yeah.
dumpster fire now. Like, why not?
Of course it is.
Yeah. So, loved that too, that she could still kind of have the, comedic relief in the moment. And I loved the dialogue between Vic and Travis. Travis, you can tell he's such a genuinely good person, because he always cares that he does the right thing. Like, he cares that he doesn't hurt someone. He cares that everybody's okay. And I love that about him. And Vic is always his solid sounding board. And he gives just as good advice to Vic in the same way. And so I love that friendship. I like, if they were going to the cons, I would have to meet both of them, because I love Jay Hayden and Barrett Doss, but I don't have any more money. Um,
Spent it all on Danielle and Stefania. They have all of your money.
no, right? No, literally. Anyway, so to that scene, I've always adored Vic and Travis's friendship. um, and that they can be there for each other and give sound advice. And I love that. I love seeing Andy as acting captain in that scene. I
Yes.
think Andy has grown so much. She's so much, um, and she should be the captain. As much as I love Maya, and I think Maya was a good captain, I do think it's Andy's turn to give it a go. And whether I'm just going to say this, people might not like it, but whether or not it was the right call that Maya was demoted, she was. Okay.
Yep.
And now I think it's Andy's turn to see how she does. Just how I feel. I think she's earned
Yep.
that. Um, and so I loved her in that scene. I loved the confrontation between Theo and Andy, that she, was basically like, I turned it down. I did this for you. And then I loved how she was so angry, and then she walks away going, the word you're looking for is thank you.
Yep.
Like, I just loved that. Um, I just loved how that whole scene was done, even though they were putting literal garbage out of fire. But um, I usually feel like the fire scenes, they're either sometimes filler scenes, or they're like the whole episode.
Yep.
And I think this one did a good job of being a needed scene, but not taking over the whole episode.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah.
Did you have thoughts about it?
Well, I thought that, not the lads puking, but I think the beginning incident that we didn't see and the end incident where Theo just tipped up at the end, I think spoke a lot about Theo's state of mind, even though we didn't see the first one, because as the trucks roll out, Theo looks absolutely terrified in the front of the engine,
Yes, he
and he
does.
takes a massive deep breath. And I wondered if they were hinting at some sort of like physical stress response.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, are we talking like maybe PTSD with Theo because of the
Yep.
unresolved issues with Michael's death? And the whole way through the episode, he seems to be harking back to issues with safety all the time. So when they come back from that call that we don't see, he's yelling at Andy about undermining him. But he says, undermining me is dangerous. And then with the kitchen fire, when Vic's trying to talk him down, he says, well, I'm going to have to file a report to say that I can't keep my own station safe. And then when Travis and Sullivan are cleaning the ladders, again, he's obsessing about safety, make sure that you get everything, it's not safe if they're not well lubricated. And it's all to do with safety. And yeah, he chucks in there, like, I'm going to look like an idiot. But it's all like safety first. And I wonder if they're kind of hinting at some sort of PTSD and the fact that he's just terrified about the same thing happening again that happened with Michael. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't think he's ready. I do think he's having some kind of emotional or mental response. You know, a lot of the things that he did to Beckett, he's telling his team not to do to him.
Yeah.
You know, he used to undermine Beckett every call, the whole call.
Yep.
And Beckett would say, this is what's going to get somebody killed. And now, when his team, even though Andy wasn't necessarily undermining, she was trying to give information, his team to him is doing the same thing. He's having an aggressive response.
Yep.
And so I don't think he's in the right headspace. I hope whatever conversation Ross had when she went in his office was helpful, since we weren't privy to that.
We weren't privy to that, no.
Yeah, and I would like to see what's going on with Vic and Theo. Are they done? Are they on a break? I'd like to know what's going on with that, because I think Vic deserves to know.
He's getting worse, and I'm actually finding it quite tricky to watch. It's difficult for me to watch, and this is a strong language to use, but I think it's kind of borderline abusive at this point, the way he is with her. And I think
It could be mentally, yeah.
emotionally abusive, and I think it's worse that
Yeah.
that at work he's in a position of power over her.
Yep.
Which gives him license to bully her, really.
Yeah.
And I'd love to actually see them. The only interaction we've seen with them since his personality transplant is them on that run and him ignoring her the episode before.
I think Montgomery knows better than anybody why Theo is where he is, and is supporting him more than I was expecting him to be supporting him, honestly.
Well, considering that he's the reason that his husband is dead.
Right. Right.
And I think it's one thing to kind of move on and draw a line under it and resume the friendship. But I think that I personally would have a lot of difficulty, and especially seeing him, the way that he's reacting, the way that he's been lately. Because I know he's not taking it out on anyone except Vic. Well, and now Andy, which feeds in actually to what you were saying the other day when you were saying to me, well, you always hurt the people that you're closest to. Obviously, he and Andy were very close at 23, so
right.
He's kind of moving his frustration over to Andy now, as well as Vic. But surely Travis can see that Theo's attitude has changed, and I would be worried about his state of mind. I think the fact that he's already screwed up on the job once before and killed his spouse, I think I'd be more concerned than Montgomery is, and I think he's being very, very supportive considering the circumstances.
Right. I agree 100%. But like I said, I think that was it wasn't quite a filler, but it was a good part in the storyline to kind of open some dialogues and finish other dialogues that were very important.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that scene very much. I think it was done very well.
And do you think that Theo's going to get worse now that he knows that he's like second choice at best?
Oh, yeah. I think that's really going to mess with his confidence that he was trying to build up.
Yeah, because he was already
For sure.
feeling unconfident. He was already lacking confidence in his ability. But now that he knows that he was just the fullback guy, I think that he's just going to go from bad to worse.
Yep, I agree.
Get Dr. Diane in, I say.
He'd never call her in.
Someone needs to. You know that I'm just gagging for a bit of Tracy Toms.
So, what do we got after our dumpster scene? Where are we jumping to next?
Home wrecking Pam.
Home wrecking Pam. The big reveal.
The Twitterati were all over it. They saw it coming a mile off.
You know, I was on the fence about it, but as a nurse, I was hoping she didn't because of the very strong line of keeping that professional integrity between patient provider privilege. Now, I will say if you go as a friend, it's not that bad because I had a family doctor for 20 years before I left Michigan, and he became very close with my mom and I. He was my mom's doctor too. And there were like twice we went out to dinner with him and his wife,
Yeah.
but that was it. You know what I mean? We just went out to dinner with his wife. His wife was there, and it was me and my mom, and it wasn't inappropriate at all. I mean, he just happened to know everything about us medically.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't look at that as the same as homewrecker Pam, though.
Well, I I was convinced that Karina did not go out with her. However, and I thought that I'd
Uh-huh.
be mad about it if she did. But I'm kind of okay with it because I wouldn't have been mad at her because of the relationship side of it, because we'd said, didn't we, when we were discussing Home Wrecking Pam the first time around, I said, look, I completely get it, because Maya's not only just shut her out since she was 51 50'd, Maya had been shutting her out for the 6 months at least prior to that. So I understood that she probably had been feeling lonely and, was enjoying having some adult company, someone listening to her, engaging her in conversation. I remember saying all of that stuff to you and saying, so I get why she hasn't halted it and said, no, we need to keep this professional, because it would have felt nice for Karina. But I was convinced that Karina wouldn't have gone out with her afterwards because of the professional line that was drawn. But when I thought about it afterwards, I thought, well, Pam basically put an end to the professional relationship herself, because she said, you can't be my doctor because I fancy you. And she said something gross like, if you were my doctor, you'd be elbowed deep in my cervix, and I don't want that because I'm attracted to you. She said something gross like that.
Well, who was elbow deep in her cervix though?
Well, exactly, right? So, oh God. Oh, the imagery. Oh God. So, but Pam put an end to it anyway. So there was no patient doctor relationship anymore, because the minute she got off that table, she said to Karina, it's not happening, you're not my doctor anymore. And also, we keep seeing Peggy and Dana crop up, because it's not like there's an ongoing patient doctor relationship between, because Karina just helps them squeeze the baby out, and then that's done. It's a one and done thing, right? It's not like with your doctor where it's an ongoing relationship. It's just,
Karina just helps him squeeze the baby out.
yeah.
Well, so I will say with a normal OB, from the moment you find out you're pregnant, you're seeing them monthly up until you're 8 months pregnant, and then you see them every other week, and then you see them weekly until the birth.
Yeah. But they'd skipped all of that part, because she came in like super pregnant already and then said, I don't
Right,
want to see you anymore as a doctor after this. So that had kind of been
right.
severed. And with Peggy and Dana, of course, you don't watch Grace, but literally, Peggy came in labor. So Karina just birthed the baby, and then that was it. So it was a one and done with Peggy and Dana, and she's maintained a friendship with them. So it's not unprecedented, right? That she says, if I'm not your doctor anymore, we can now have a personal relationship. So I am not mad at her that since Pam said no to you being my doctor, that she said yes to drinks. I'm not mad about it.
Okay. I don't know if I'm mad about it. I don't know if that's the right word. I think I was just hurt for Maya. Because my I know Maya did worse. Maya actually slept with Jack, and I get that. But I think it hurt me for Maya because she's trying so hard right now. And to think that she can't be for her wife what her wife needs, so she needs to get it from somebody else, that can be really hurtful.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that at the time that Karina went for the drinks, Maya was not in a place to be that. And she hadn't been that for months. And that was her own doing.
Correct.
Karina had been begging and begging and begging. And I think that to Maya's credit, that was why she didn't kick off and do the old Maya thing. Because I think that when Karina said to her, "Are you questioning my professional integrity?" I was lonely.
Yeah.
And so I went out for drinks once, and it was nice to have someone to talk to. I think Maya, in
Yeah.
those 2 seconds, kind of went, you know what, she's absolutely right. I was not there for her. She hadn't had anyone to talk to. It was drinks on one occasion, and it's just a friend. There's no
Right.
need to kick off. There's no need to be jealous. And if I judge her for that, and if I give her a hard time about that, I'm being really unfair.
Right.
And Karina saying, we went out for drinks and this is why, I think shows that Karina, I remember saying to you the first time around as well, like it's all innocent from Karina's end. Like Pam's the one doing the flirting. There's no intention there. There's
Right.
nothing there from Karina's side. It's all very innocent and platonic from Karina's end. So I don't think Karina's doing anything
Right.
wrong. And so I think that, again, her saying, it was drinks, it was once, she's a friend, she's a new friend, but she's just a friend. The fact that she says that it is just a friend, if she kind of kept it to herself and been a bit cagey about it, then I think that there's cause for concern. But the fact that she was just like straight up about it shows that there's no cause for concern there.
Well, up to that point, she had kept it to herself, though. Maya only found out because.
Yeah, they hadn't been talking though, and I think it was bound to come up at some point, right? Like there was bound to be a phone call at some point, at which point you say, well, oh yeah, no, she's just someone that I met at the clinic and now we're friends. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to give Karina the benefit of the doubt. I'm fine with it.
Okay. As long as it wasn't Gabriella, I'm good. I don't trust Gabriella when it comes to Karina.
Rightly so, I think.
Yeah, with their past.
But this all came about because Karina's come for their first date. And when Karina turns up, she almost catches Maya in the act of leaving a voicemail with the union, because Maya snuck off into like a bunk, I guess, to call the union about the photographs. And then she's just hung up, and Karina comes in. Super cute. Maya calls her Karen Delinka.
Yeah.
And then addresses her as doctor as she kind of takes her to the beanery, giving her a mock tour of the station. And that whole thing for me was slightly marred by the fact that she snuck the pictures back into her locker first. But I'm going to give her a pass because it was the beginning of their first date, and that wouldn't have been the best way to start things out, right? And I loved Vic and Andy playing along. Vic might have played along a little bit too much, giving herself a little fake moustache, calling herself Dr. Hughes, but it was all like super cute.
I loved Andy's response. She's like, I like it. It's weird as hell, but I like it. Like I liked how she said that. It was so funny. That was probably one of my favorite comedic lines from the episode.
Yeah, it was great. Peter Page. Details, Peter Page. Thank you so much, sir. Karina brought cannoli. She brought cannoli.
She did, yes.
Awesome. I love that they've carried the Sicilian over. But this whole like cute little interlude is cut short when Karina gets a call, asks who's on aid car duty, and as luck would have it, it's Maya and Ben. Poor Ben.
Yep.
And then on the way there in the aid car, they discuss Bailey being doxxed, and Ben's saying that he wants armed guards at the clinic. And whilst Karina acknowledges that Ben and Maya are worried about their safety, she says that the last thing women going to a reproductive clinic need is to feel like they're in danger. And so, that's the impression that big men with guns gives off. So whilst she is afraid all of the time, the one thing she does know is that the answer is not more guns. The aid car pulls up at the Department of Entomology, and that's the point at which we know it is going to be insect-loving, home-wrecking Pam, who is the patient in need. And we find her in labour with her hand in a vending machine.
Getting them donuts.
Getting those donuts. You got to do what you got to do to get donuts, right? And through conversation, we find out that she and Karina went for drinks, and that does not escape Maya's attention.
Nope.
Karina causes Pam some discomfort at some point, and Pam says, and here I thought we were friends, which results in yet more comedy eye acting from Maya, and a very terse, "How's your arm, Pam?" Um, which was very funny. Pam's fingers are going numb. She's losing blood flow. Karina says they're likely to have to deliver on the floor. And Maya tries to pry information from Karina whilst Ben goes to get a pry bar from the car. And Karina starts by saying that Pam is a patient, but then she confesses that she's a friend. But Maya's skeptical, saying that she knows all of Karina's friends. And Karina is saved from further interrogation by Pam's amusing subordinate Devon calling for their
Yep.
help. Devon, by the way, I thought Devon was hilarious with all of his bug
Yeah, he was.
references.
He did it. They picked a good character to play that role.
He was super cute. He was so funny. And kudos to Peter Page for doing all that bug
Yeah.
research as well. That would not have been fun. But by now, Pam's arm is dead. Ben finally makes it back into the building. He gets yelled at by Karina for taking so long. And he has a little dig about the security in the college building being better than at the reproductive clinic. And they're dropping a lot of hints about that, which I don't like. But then Maya tries to pump Ben for information, who takes a very pragmatic dad approach and says that Pam came to see Dr. DeLuca. And I love that he didn't say came to see Karina, but said Dr. DeLuca. So he kept it in the context of a professional appointment, and that he'd checked Pam in, and that's all that there was to it. I think that that would have been a different conversation if she'd asked Jack.
100% a shoot ass Jack. Yep.
Because Ben knows, right? Ben knows Karina, and he knows that that's all there was to it. So there's no need to stir the pot. And I think that he can see that Mara and Karina are in a good place as well. So, yeah, so I'm just really glad that it was Ben that broached that and not Jack. But anyway, the baby is in an awkward position. Karina's got to manually maneuver the baby so that it can pop out. Babies just pop out, right? They just slide
Sure.
right out, just straight out.
Exactly.
Um, but Maya and Ben need an angle grinder to get into the vending machine, which they'll need someone to bring over from the station. And as we know, that's how Sullivan and Ross got to have their little chat. So they arrive, and Mara and Ben unpack the vending machine. Did you notice that Devon put the little bag of donuts in Pam's bag?
Yeah, I thought that was sweet.
That was such a nice little
It
touch.
was.
Such a great touch. And again, I wonder if that was scripted or if that was Stacey K. Black
Yeah.
with the direction. I wonder, but it was just a really cute touch, I thought. And then Maya offers herself up to prop Pam up so that gravity can do its thing. See, they just fall out. That's all that was needed. Just sit on Maya or just slide right on out there.
Yep.
And that is how the baby's born, with Pam basically sitting on Maya whilst Sullivan and Ben angle grind Pam's arm free from the vending machine. And then back at 19, Ben concedes that he was wrong about having armed guards at the clinic and having seen what Pam went through, and says that the last thing that women in that position need is like literal guns in their face. And Karina says that everything we do carries a risk, and that she and Bailey are being as careful as they can. And he says that whilst he can't let it go, he can try and keep quiet about it. So it sounds like that husband of hers will try not to nag, nag, nag. So then we get the moment that we're waiting for. Maya and Karina are finally alone. And Maya tells Karina that she was amazing, but she can't resist asking about Pam again. And she just has one little minor jab when Karina calls her friend and says that she thought she wasn't supposed to fraternize with patients. But then when Karina asks if Maya's questioning her professional integrity, Maya kind of stops in her tracks. And Karina explains that she was lonely, and so she just went out for drinks once and have someone to talk to. And to Maya's credit, she seems satisfied with that. And I loved how she then jumped off of that, of Karina saying it was nice to have someone to talk to. And she then confides in Karina about Dixon. Then Karina is relieved to hear that Maya wants to get her job back, but only by legitimate means and not the way that Dixon is suggesting. That was a nice moment between them. And then Maya says that although it's not a first date conversation, Karina is her conscience. And Karina says that's why you trust your partner, because they mirror back the best version of you. And then we finally got what we were super, super, super waiting for, which is that Maya very sweetly takes Karina's face in her hands and gives her a kiss. And then Maya pulls away and asks if she can take Karina out again somewhere with less amniotic fluid and placenta. I'm a bit concerned. So I'll kick off with the heavy stuff and then we can maybe talk about the nice stuff to cleanse our palate. But I am a bit concerned because there seems to be a lot of focus right now on Bailey and Karina being unsafe.
Yeah.
Ben last week was talking about Bailey arming herself, and I know it was only with mace, but now they're talking about guns. And Ben saying, you know, I want armed guards, and Karina saying the answer to things in this country is not more guns. And I know that they've already on Grays had Addison and had her mowed down by an anti-abortion activist. But now it's escalating with Bailey now that she's been doxxed. And my concern is, so they've dealt with COVID stuff that was going on at the time and they dealt with that. And then when all the Black Lives Matter protests sparked up, they dealt with that. And now they're dealing with women's reproductive rights. And I feel like the only place that Grays and Station 19 have not gone yet, which is very prevalent at the moment, is gun violence. And so my concern is that next on the agenda will be gun violence and that they might have that intersect with women's reproductive rights stuff. And I'm just really worried that either Bailey or Karina are going to get shot. Is that out of the question, do you think? Or do you think,
Going back to the political side, it's always so interesting to me because I grew up a Republican, as much as I
okay,
hate to say that now. I grew up a very strong conservative, and a lot of that had to do with the very strong religious beliefs that were taught to me in what I now view a cult.
yeah,
Um, and so I'm unlearning, but they basically caused me to think that Republicans were right when it came to anything, any rule or law that they had, that they were right.
yeah,
This last election was the first election in my life where I voted Democrat because when I left the cult, I realized it wasn't as black and white as they were making it to be.
yes.
And it was actually, I'm saying all this to say that there was a Republican senator who tweeted that his right to own his gun was greater than the protection of my children, and that it was my job to protect my children when they were in school.
Jeez Louise.
So when I send my kid to school, if it's my job to protect them, am I supposed to sit there all day with a gun in my car? Like, what? When I send my kid to school, I expect them to be protected at school.
Yeah,
And so, just another reason why I don't identify as a Republican anymore for many other reasons. But it's just the people that have these ideologies, I don't know when and if things will ever change, ever. And that's what makes it scary about things like this is people have the access to the guns, they have free access, they can buy as much as they want, and they can have a cause that they get behind, and they can really hurt people. And it would be terrifying for Miranda or Karina or anybody in the clinic, for that to
yeah.
happen to for that reason, especially when you're there for pro-life and then you're killing people.
Right? That's what I don't get. I mean, the whole thing is very alien to me because we've had quite like relatively strict gun laws in place since I want to say the late 60s. I could be wrong. This isn't my area of law. I do civil law and this would be criminal law. But I think that we've had gun legislation in place since like the 60s ish. And then in the mid 90s, I believe I'm right in saying it was 1996, we had a school shooting. It was in a small Scottish town called Dunblane, and it's known as the Dunblane Massacre. And it remains, and likely will remain, I hope, touch wood, the worst gun related incident, the worst shooting in British history. So a white guy, white middle aged guy, went into a primary school. And primary school, I don't know what your version of primary school is, but the children were aged 5 and 6.
That would be kindergarten, first grade.
Okay, so there we go. So first grade kids. He went in, he shot a whole class. So there were 30 or just over 30, around 30 children shot. I believe 16 of them died, and one teacher was shot. And do you know what? That was 1996, because in 1997, two new, more restrictive gun laws were enacted. And the first one was by a Tory government, which is our sort of, I mean, I want to say that they're like slightly, they're right of centre, but compared to the Republicans, they're like loony lefties, like compared to the MAGA Republicans, like the Republican Party as it is now. So they would be seen as quite leftist still, I think. But the Tories brought in a gun law which basically restricted ownership, that no private citizen, with very few exceptions. So if you're like a farmer, for example, you can own a gun if you can prove that you need a gun to protect your land, against rabbits and the like. But certainly handguns, pistols and stuff, there was no private ownership except very small caliber. So I think 22s were still acceptable. And then we got a Labour government in who were slightly left of centre immediately after that. And Tony Blair closed that loophole. So very tight gun legislation was brought in, and then the next government said it's not tight enough, and so now clubs can own guns. And as I say, it's very restricted access for people like farmers and stuff like that. But there's no private gun ownership over here. So the last mass shooting that we had as a result of that was in 1996. And that's it. There's just no, and I don't know anyone that owns a gun. I don't know anyone who would want to own a gun at all. It's just not part of our culture at all. So the whole thing is just absolutely terrifying and alien to me. But it does strike me as strange that you get these people who say they are pro-life, who then go in and would run out, and there, I know, I mean, I know we're sort of supposed to be talking about Station 19, but I believe I'm right in saying that there was a reproductive doctor a few years ago who was blown up. You've had bombs go off, haven't you, and had people blown to blazes,
Yep.
and people shot. So it just amazes me that someone can say that they are pro-life, but will quite happily go and blow somebody up or shoot them in the name of a fertilized egg. It's madness to me. And so, as someone that's not part of that culture, and there's no real, I mean, I'm sure there is a pro-life movement over here, but it would be so minute, and nobody would be prepared to sort of say it out loud, because they'd be pilloried over here if you say that women shouldn't have the right over their own bodies when it comes to their reproductive freedom. That's not something that British people are prepared to hear. As a general rule, they'd be shouted down. So it does kind of terrify me that because Shondaland is quite happy to take on political matters and is quite happy to do, and I'm happy for them to deal with it, because it's easy to look at things as just politics, right? Until it becomes personal to you. And this is a safe way to make it personal to people, because you don't necessarily know somebody in that position. I hope to God that most people don't know somebody who has been shot. I hope that is true. And so a safe way to make the political personal is to hurt these people that we invite into our living rooms week on week, right? Because we grow fond of them. They're not real people, they're fictitious people, but we see them week on week and invite them into our homes. And so we do grow to care for them. And so I guess a safe way to make the political personal, and to show people that may not otherwise be exposed to such things, that this is not a great idea, and this is how it genuinely affects people on the day to day and affects real people in their real lives, is to hurt a fictional person that we care for, right?
Right.
So as much as I'm kind of all for Shondaland tackling these things, and I think it's important, and I think that they always do it well, please don't hurt Karina or Miranda.
Yeah, please. And if you do, let it be a quick recovery.
Just a graze, just a slight graze.
Yeah, slight graze would be good. Or they can bounce right back up.
Yeah. But I mean, maybe I'm kind of overthinking it. Maybe that's not where they're going. But it's just something with the build up of everything, it's getting worse for Miranda, not better over on Grey's. Ben is getting quite ramped up, and then we had Maya sleeping at the hotel so that Karina could feel safer. And now we've had Maya saying in the aid car, well, Ben's not the only one that's worried. It's just something that kind of crossed my mind, and especially since at the moment, I mean, I know there's always a flood of shootings in the US, but it just seems to be something that's really quite prevalent in the
Yeah,
news right now. And so it's just something that occurred to me that they might try and do that. I hope I'm horribly wrong.
yeah. No, it is. I mean, there was a recent shooting of a young man who went to pick up his
Yes,
siblings. Yeah,
the 16-year-old lad, yeah, that knocked on the wrong door because he had the address slightly wrong.
and they just shot him.
Shot him in the head.
You could have just answered the door and said you have the wrong address. Like I've done that before. I've gone to the wrong house.
Yeah,
And so yeah, it's a big issue here for sure.
yeah. But I mean, as I say, I hope I'm wrong, but there we have it. Palate cleanse, palate cleanse, palate cleanse, quick. it's kicking my anxiety off. Palate cleanse. The final palate cleansing installment is up and ready to go, so be sure to join us for part 3 of this bumper episode.